I'll have to go back over there. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. Today we're back on the TR3. You guys haven't seen a video on that in a long time. We're going to work on trying to get this thing to where it will start easier without having to shoot starter fluid in the carbs and get it to run. So we'll be taking the carbs all apart and trying to get those rebuilt and seeing what's involved in that. And hopefully when we're done, we can just put the key in it and hit start and go instead of having to work under the hood for a while each time. So let's see what we can get done today. I want to take this carburetor off today, and I've got some parts in that came in for the choke, the little Teflon O-rings that I needed to make sure those jets go up and down so that we can get this thing started without starter fluid. So just like that, it's gone. It's out. It's pretty easy. It's only these 8 bolts right here, and then disconnecting the choke in 2 different spots, a clamp and then this little pin right here. So take it home and I'll order some new gaskets right here. Those are pretty crusty too. I wonder if I need to replace those, but anyway, we'll look at it when we get home. First thing I'm gonna do is take those filters off, and I want to really try to just clean this thing, check the floats and make sure they're not, don't have gas inside them, like where they're leaking, and just clean it, and without changing as very little of the settings as possible, because it runs good. It just needs to be able to be cleaned and operate smoothly, and the choke and the jets need to go in and out. So that's my goal here. All right, so I've got these things kind of taken apart a little bit, and you see on the filters, got a crack right here, and the same way over here. These filters are the original filters on this thing, and I don't know if you know how these work, but they're just a wire mesh in there. They're just pretty much keeping big stuff out. I can't imagine that keeping a whole lot of dust out. You're supposed to, I think you oil them, but I'm probably gonna keep these and put some paper filters on there that are more dust proof. And here's the top of the little float canisters. I'll probably pull this little pin out here on both of them and take that little valve out and just make sure everything's good on that. There's a little rubber seal, has the seal in there, make sure it's still rubbery, and check all that. And these are what's filthy. I don't know if you know how these SUs work, but there's a needle in there. You see that needle? And there was not very much dash pot oil up here in the dash pot, so I'm surprised it ran as good as it did, really. But that needle looks nice and clean. I'll take this dash pot off and clean the needle and just clean all this with carburetor cleaner and try to get all the crud and stuff off of it. Inside the float bowl is really nasty. The floats, I think, are okay. There's no fluid in them. I'll hold them underwater to make sure that I don't see any bubbles, but I don't think they leak. And these had the original tags on them still, the float tops. So it's pretty cool. Let's start cleaning her up. All right, so I've got the SUs in here on the counter, and I got the big bulk of the crud off of them. I mean, they're fairly clean now. I mean, I've still got to do some stuff in here, you know, once I got all the big old thick nasty grease and everything off of them. So now when I move this right here, you can see that this jet, the jet down there at the bottom, I tilt it, it does come out now. See that? So I think one of the reasons all this was so cruddy down here was that it's been leaking gas out of that, and it was stuck too. And this one moves in and out too. So I'm going to take these dash pots off, check out what's inside there, look at the needle, and just kind of see what all needs to be cleaned inside of it, and then work on getting these jets out so I can put the new O-rings and everything in there. And I'm going to look at a breakdown of these carbs on a parts list so I can see what, like, I know these gaskets right here probably need to be replaced from the float bowls, and usually the little valve in there, I'll check and see if it needs to be replaced. All right, so I've got these things much cleaner. These things were so disgusting. So the needles look like they're in good shape. I've got one, it's right here where the choke connects here. Looks like that is pretty wore out there. I might need to buy this piece here. But I'll just go look and see what all I need to get. All right, so I'm working along here on these carbs, and I really wanted to check the needles on them before I ordered parts, because you can buy like a rich running needle, a standard needle, or a lean needle. And so the rich or the standard ones were labeled SM, like Sam Mark on them. So I took the needles out, both of them, here they are, and I was able to zoom in on the top of that thing, and you can barely see SM. So these are the standard needles. So that's what I wanted. And they both look like they're in good shape. Here's the other one. So I'm going to order the regular jets, and they should work with those needles. I also took apart this valve in the float, and here is the little needle that goes up and down and stops the flow of fuel. This is, I guess, an original one, because all the newer ones have the Viton or the rubber tip on them, which are better. But this little seat and this little needle are like $52 each. So I don't know that I want to spend $5 on two of those when it's easy to get to. Like if I want to change those later, all I got to do is just take two bolts out and just lift those off the float bowls, and I can change them whenever. So I think I'm going to put them back together with these in there, and I'm going to check the float level to make sure these are bent right, and also got to remember to check those brass floats, make sure they don't have a leak in them. But for now, I've got a list of everything I want to order. I want to take apart one of these jets and just look at it and make sure I don't see anything else on one of these that I need to order, since a lot of that stuff is cheap, like washers and stuff. I've already got, like I told you before, all the new seals that are going to be in there. All right, so there's the jet, which just came out of that hole right there. That's what it looks like when it comes out. So all that stuff that is going to be cleaned up, and anything that's a washer or anything like that is going to be replaced. So I'll take it all apart and lay it out. All right, so here is the jet after taking it all apart. There's all little pieces in that thing. And everything that is, I'm going to buy a new one of these. This is the actual jet part, just because I don't know how worn that hole is. So I just want to make sure I got the right size hole. And I'm going to clean all the rest of that stuff. There's some pieces in here that are cork. That is a cork little O-ring type thing made out of cork. There's 1, 2 of those. That's made out of cork. So all that, we're really prone to leaking. So all that will be replaced with Teflon stuff. So I'll get all that clean, and now I know exactly what what it needs to get. So here's a parts breakdown. Look at all those pieces. So now I know which ones I need to get, and I'll make the order and get back with you in a few weeks. All right, so I've got all my pieces and parts in that I ordered. Got my new gaskets for the bowls, float bowls, blocks that insulate between the carbs and the manifolds. Install these little pieces and parts of washers, and here's the jets. Here's that piece that was wore out from the hole right here. There's just all sorts of stuff. And I did end up ordering the float valves here. They have a new type. It's called a Gross. Grose type valve. It's not the Viton, but these are supposed to be really good. They say that they sometimes have issues with new fuels, but I'm going to be treating this fuel as I use it. So hopefully that will be okay. But this got, instead of being just a needle in there, it's got two balls, a ball at the top and a ball at the bottom that regulates the flow of fuel through that. So they were really great when they first came out, they said, but then this ethanol has kind of messed with them. So maybe they've done some upgrades on them, I don't know. But for now, I'm going to work on the jet part. So I'm going to go through and get my new jets out. I'm going to file or chamfer a little bit of a sloped edge on these holes on it, because I'm not using the old cork like that came out of it. I'm going to be using these Teflon rings that I ordered. So there's two of these little white rings that go everywhere there was a cork gasket. So, and if you don't file these down a little bit, the sharp edge on those will tear into those Teflon O-rings. So we don't want that to happen. So that's what I'm going to do first, and then we'll start putting it together. All right, so I've got the jet all put back together here, and I just got it loosely put in there because one of the things you have to do with these is you have to center the needle in the jet, and so you leave that jet loose so that you can, I'm going to try to do this with two hands here. You can pull this up, and you want it to have a nice clunk all the way down. So I've got it where I got it centered right now. So what I really need to do is hold this piece in here steady while I tighten this top nut, and then keep checking and make sure that, because if I twist this thing in here, that jet is going to get off center, and then that needle is not going to drop all the way down where it needs to. But before I do that, get it all tightened, I'm going to go ahead and take this float bowl off, because I've got to replace, there's some rubber grommet things in here, washers. So I want to go ahead and get that out and get that replaced, and then I'll tighten that stuff up, and then we'll start on the other one. All right, so I've got the jets both replaced on both of these carbs, and I've got this little bracket here, linkage, whatever you call it, replaced. And I just have both of these jet nuts on just like a couple threads, so I don't know what the initial setting is. I gotta look that up, figure out how far up and down the jets need to go before we tune it. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and replace these float bowl valves right here. But I'll go ahead and replace those, then everything will be ready to start to do the adjustments when I get down here again, and then we'll put it back together and go put it on the car after we put some damper oil in it. Here's a new bottle of damper oil. Okay, so I've got my choke level set by bending these forks down to where a 7/16 drill bit just barely slides under there. So that's good. Got the new gaskets on there, so everything's done with those. Now I'm going to finish putting these back together, and then I'm going to tighten this nut all the way up and then back it back out 2 full turns on each one of these to set the jet. That's what the initial setting is. Then I'll go ahead and get our pin put back in here and our spring back on and our float tops back on and all that, and then we're going to go put it on the car. All right, so I've got this thing back together, and both of them, and I've got the jet set, so I've got a good nice little plunk right there with everything connected, so everything's centered. Got a nice easy choke mechanism now, it goes up and down. So I'm going to put the covers on the floats, get the little tags put back on that still had the numbers on them, and go get ready to put this on the car. I've got everything kind of cleaned up that I couldn't get to before, and I want to just it's kind of dirty, start putting, I got little gaskets that go on here and spacers and other gaskets and all that. I'll try to get that put on, and then we'll start putting the carbs on. So we've got gasket, insulator, gasket on both of those, and now comes the carburetors. All right, so I've got everything installed. All the bolts or nuts are tightened up, going into the manifolds. Got the fuel line connected. Got the I don't have the little bar connecting both of our chokes because we're supposed to leave that off until after we get everything adjusted, and then we put that on. Got dash pot oil in the dash pots. You can tell the pressures on them now. They click down in there because the oil's in there. I got our little line ran over to our distributor, our little vacuum line. Got our throttle connected, and I also have both carbs connected right here, but later we'll take that back off when we start trying to get them adjusted individually. So now I just need to turn on the gas, and we'll try to get some fuel pumped over here, fill up the bowls, and hopefully start this thing. Okay, I didn't get this on film because I don't have a tripod here, but I cranked it like 5 seconds and the thing fired right up. That's when I was manually pulling the choke on one side, so that's 1,000 times better than it used to be when we had to spray starting fluid in it every time. So I'm going to let it warm up, and then I'm going to start doing some tuning. Okay, so I've got the carbs adjusted pretty well. What I'm doing now is trying to get them flow to the same vacuum. So I've got a little gauge here that I put up to the throat there, and it tells me this little red line will run down and tell me a number, and I need to make them the same. So this one goes to 7. This one is going to almost like 7.5, almost 8. So I need to raise the idle on this one a little bit. Just barely.
Those are set right now. All right, so next I need to, I've got both of my jets up where they go. And I'm going to have to try to get this lined up here. You don't want to move it over because then that'll make your chokes not synchronized. So I'm going to have to move this out so that that lines right up with that hole. And then we have to put our choke cable back in here, and that pin will hold this into here, and that should be it, other than putting your filters back on. All right, it's been a couple days since I started the Triumph, and I just wanted to let it rest and see what it's like to start when it's totally cold and there's no fuel up in there. So I'm going to try to film this. You remember before when I would pull out the choke, I could not get the two jets to drop down. So I'm going to pull my choke and see if I can hopefully get those jets to go down. That way we'll know the choke is working. Let's see if I can shoot it from here. Okay, I'm pulling the choke. Okay, so they are down. I don't know if that's down far enough, but they weren't doing anything before. So I'm going to get in the car, choke it, and crank it, and we'll see how it starts. All right, so it's the next day, and I just came out after work and tried to start this thing again. It started right up. I mean, super easy. Just pulled the choke, cranked it, and it hit right off. And the other day when I ran it, it had a really high idle, so I was going to try to work on that. But today the idle seemed back down to normal, so I'm not sure if I've got a vacuum leak somewhere or what's going on. But I'll just have to mess with that over the next few times I start it.
And just like that, Dad can start the Triumph all by himself. It used to take 3 people. He had to climb in the car and hold the choke and turn the key, and someone had to lift the hood up and spray start fluid, and someone else had to be nearby with a fire extinguisher, and it was a whole process. But hey, now he can do it all by himself. But anyway, with that, I just hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button down below and get subscribed and turn on the bell so you get notifications for all future videos. With that, it's time for our verse of the week, which is John 16:33, which says, "These things I have spoken to you, so that in me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation, but take courage, I have overcome the world." Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.